So, Bryan Kohberger, he's accused of killing 4 people. He honestly should just go to jail for having that name to begin with. Basically, killing 4 people in a residential area close to campus. The campus was the University of Idaho. Now, for some reason, he was there and killed them all with a bar-style knife, like one of those fixed blades. And keep in mind, this guy was studying criminology, so it's not like he was, completely removed from. He wasn't completely removed from knowing how to kill someone. And I think that mixed with a little bit of being a psychopath may have fueled some of this.
His mother and sister arrived for the brief hearing arm in arm, their faces masked. His father, also wearing a mask, was a few steps behind them. When Bryan Kohberger entered the courtroom here in Pennsylvania, his eyes went directly to his family members seated in the front row, dad, mom, and 2 sisters, all holding tissues. Kohberger listened intently to the judge, even responding verbally with answers like, "Yes, I have," "Yes, I understand." Now, when he was led out of the courtroom, he did look back at his family and mouth the words, "I love you." Kohberger will be flown back to Idaho to face justice, and that could happen as soon as tonight. Public defender Jason Labar represented Kohberger at the extradition hearing.
He said, this is not him. He believes he's going to be exonerated. That's what he believes. Those were his words.
Look, this is a citation Kohberger was issued by Moscow, Idaho police for not wearing a seatbelt. The date, August 21st, 2022, 11:40 p.m., the day before the new semester began. He was pulled over in his white 2015 Elantra at the entrance to the campus, just 1.7 miles from the house where the murders took place.
This is Jim Moray in Moscow, Idaho. One of the key questions raised by the seatbelt ticket is this. What was Kohberger doing at the University of Idaho when he was a grad student at Washington State University 8 miles away? Could he have been stalking one of the students who was later found slain?
The father of victim Kaylee Gonsalves was asked about possible links with her on Good Morning America.
I think those things will come out. I don't know if there's a direct connection, but we're waiting to see, and we're learning every day we're learning something new.
And did Bryan Kohberger call into a podcast covering the murder investigation? A friend says this is his voice.
I live in a college town, and I've worked with at least 10 Sigma Chi members.
The caller tries to raise suspicions about the Sigma Chi fraternity that victim Ethan Chapin belonged to. Could it have been an attempt to divert attention to them and away from the real killer?
The one thing that every single one of them has asked me is, if you were going to kill somebody, how would you get away with it? Maybe this is nothing more than some kid in a fraternity trying to prove himself.
Kohberger's father, Michael, flew to Washington State to drive 2,500 miles cross-country with his son to their home in Chestnut Hill, Pennsylvania for winter break. They were pulled over in the white Elantra twice in Indiana, once for speeding and an hour later for tailgating. This is body cam video of one of those stops.
Bryan Kohberger.
Kohberger has a master's degree in criminology and was studying for a doctorate. Forensic psychiatrist Dr. Keith Abloh says Kohberger's fascination with crime may have had tragic consequences.
All right, shit. So if you just take a step back and you look at the area, right? We have the Washington State University and the University of Idaho. Now, if you look closely, both universities are right before the state line. So there would be no real reason you would even consciously know that you're leaving your state, going into another state just to get over to the Washington State University, instead of just staying in the University of Idaho with your laws and everything, going to your grocery stores or whatever like that. There would be no real reason to cross the state line unless you were one, like the news said, stalking someone, or the other alternative is just you knew somebody. Maybe he kind of knew these people. Now, there's no real motive in it or anything given yet, but it's either he was a psychopath, who was just stalking his prey, which is what the news is saying, or he knew these people and it goes a little bit deeper than him just randomly stabbing 4 people. Cool. Now, moving forward, we have a lot of people who say, oh yeah, I knew Bryan, this and that, I knew him. But we have one person in particular who knew him for like a really long time. So we're going to move right on into his former classmate, like 8th grade buddy type of situation. And he's going to break down basically the type of person that he knows Bryan to be.
So I looked it up. I typed, Idaho murders, and then like, holy crap, that's Bryan. That's Bryan. I know Bryan. That's wild to me. It's a shock, seeing someone you've known on TV.
Jack Bayless met Bryan Kohberger in 8th grade when the two of them ran with a group of boys in this neighborhood near Albrightsville, Pennsylvania.
I want to say he wanted to be a cop since he was younger.
What kind of teenager was he?
He was pretty normal. He was definitely heavier set, and that caused issues in school, apparently.
But in high school, dramatic changes washed over Kohberger, according to several friends, including Bayless.
I believe it was the weight loss first. And I was, I want to say 14 to maybe 16, between there.
Whoa, look at him. He's a big boy. Damn. Okay, so he used to be a big boy, and then from there, he's into criminology. He's into law and crime and this and that. He might want to be a police officer. So we see the basis of how this could have started.
Was the big weight loss. I could be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was. And then it was the drugs.
How did he get started in drugs?
He got in drugs via an acquaintance of his. It was definitely heroin. It was pretty gnarly.
Bayless doesn't know exactly when Kohberger got clean.
Last I saw him, he was pretty lucid.
But the two reconnected after Kohberger enrolled at DeSales University in Center Valley, right around the corner from Bayless's home. Kohberger's major, criminology.
He's always been kind of fascinated with kind of how the brain works and how people think and why they do what they do.
So my senior year, I ended up in a biology class, which is where I met and interacted with Bryan Kohberger.
What were your first impressions of the guy?
Bryan seemed normal enough.
But that opinion did not last for Bernard James, a DeSales film student in 2018 when he attended a class with Kohberger.
One of the big parts of that biology class that we were in, we had a group project as a part of our final grade.
With 4 DeSales classmates on the project, Kohberger was chosen as team leader. Not surprising for the student DeSales professor Michelle Bolger called brilliant and one of the best students ever, according to an article in the Daily Mail. Dr. Bolger declined to comment to King 5. But to some classmates at the Christian University, Kohberger seemed more like a know-it-all.
The way that he came across in his speech, kind of person who has to use big words, the one always raising his hand in class.
And what happened then towards the end of this whole thing?
We're approaching the due date, and I was feeling like I was left out to dry.
Bernard James says Kohberger completed the class project without including him, resulting in a failed class in Bernard's final year at DeSales. He confronted Kohberger in the university library.
I remember him being very straight-faced, very almost emotionless with this. He kind of like a small smile on his face. Like there's more to him than it seems. Very intense stare. I remember that. I'll never forget that. Looking right into my soul almost, as we were having this back and forth. Manipulative, cold.
Was he witnessing an odd personality trait or something more?
What was he like?
He was just your average guy. I met him through some friends, and they told me that he was a little weird, and he was a little socially awkward, I guess you could say. But he wasn't a bad guy. He needed a job, so I worked at a pizza shop at that time, and they were hiring. I said, yeah, come on in and apply, and he did, and he got the job. So I worked with him for a little bit. But he was quiet, though.
What was conversation like with him?
What was that?
What was conversation like with him? Like when you talk with him at work, would he look you in your eyes? Did he have friends? Did he have a girlfriend at the time?
It was so long ago. It was like 2013, but he didn't have a girlfriend. I do remember that. And my wife went to school with him. They graduated together, and she doesn't remember him ever having a girlfriend, and I don't remember him ever having a girlfriend. And he didn't have many friends, so he like would do anything to fit in, and would do like, he just wanted to be liked by everybody. But he wasn't a bad kid. Like, he was all right. And I knew his sister. I went to school with his sister, and I knew his father worked for the school, and I believe his mother did too. But his family, they were all nice people, and his dad was always really nice to me, very polite. But I never thought that he would do something like that.
Good copy. So we've heard from some people that surrounded him that there may have been drug use in his life prior as well. Did you know him to use drugs or anything like that, sir?
Yeah, he did use drugs. That's how I really know him too. He was a big heroin addict, and so was I. I got 6 years clean now. I work in treatment and everything, but back then I was using, and so that's how I know for a fact he was using. I've got high with him a couple times and used with him. And I remember one night we went out and his car broke down, and his dad had to come out, and he got pretty angry. Well, because his car broke down and everything, and we couldn't get what we needed that night. And I knew other people that dealt drugs, and we would deliver drugs to him a lot. And so that's when I heard about this case. I haven't heard from him in so long. And then I heard about this, and it said that he was going to college. I said, I haven't heard from him. I guess that's what he's been doing. He must have cleaned up. I know he was in and out of rehab a couple times, but he really did. He cleaned up and was going to college all these years.
Rich, I'm short on time, but I got to ask you one last question. We've heard from people that he had a track record of being inappropriate, borderline offensive to women. Did you ever see that in any of your interactions with him and interactions with women?
Not in my time knowing him. I've never seen him ever act like that towards women. I've never seen him come off that way ever towards anybody.
I used to go on night runs with him because, like, I didn't want to go running at night by myself. So I would text him, like, hey, you want to go for a run? We'd go for 6-7 mile runs at night. So, like, when I saw who it was, I was just in, like, complete shock. I'm still kind of, like, shaking knowing about that. Like, it's just unreal to think somebody could actually do that to somebody. Like, it's absolutely, like, mind-boggling. Like, my adrenaline's still kind of running after finding that information out. So just, I feel for the families, and I'm just happy justice can be served now, so.
Now, I do want to point something out. I do find this super odd. This guy is a recovering addict. He's doing really well for himself. So, in a sense, he understands the gravity of, fucking up. Like, he can go back to using in the parking lot with some random guy he doesn't know, or he could get his life together and, enjoy the fruits of his labor. Now, everybody seems to say the same thing. He's, a nice guy, kind of quiet, socially awkward. Fine. Now, to be able to kill 4 people has to be a lot of pent-up rage, or it was a deeper story. You know what I mean? And I just can't wait until the trial really commences so that we can understand why he killed these 4 people in particular in the first place. Like, these seem like specific targets. So, just want to throw that up in there. Okay, now let's go back to the weapon that was used. Now, if we go to the police reports and everything like that, they'll say that it was believed to have been used by a K-bar knife. Now, this is because they only found the sheath to the knife. They didn't find the knife itself. So either Bryan Kohberger, he hid the knife very well and the police never found it, or he gave it to someone we don't really know. All they know is that they found DNA on the sheath and there was no knife.
Investigation, Moscow police contacted the makers of the knife, believed to be the murder weapon. The probable cause affidavit says that officers found the sheath to a K-bar knife next to Madison Mogen's body. DNA on that sheath helped police connect Bryan Kohberger to the scene. Now, the director of sales and marketing for K-bar told TMZ that investigators contacted the company about the knives and sheaths they sell, but K-bar did not have any records of someone named Bryan Kohberger purchasing one. Experts say the knife that would fit the sheath is a 7-inch utility knife, commonly used as a tool by campers or hunters. While police haven't found the knife itself, the sheath with Kohberger's DNA is on it. It's a pretty big get for the prosecution. Wouldn't you agree, Terry?
I think it's a huge get for the prosecution. Anytime you can get either the weapon that committed the crime or something associated with that weapon, you're doing well. And here they have that sheath, and according to the affidavit, it was found next to one of the bodies, and it did have DNA on it, and definitely that's going to help convict Kohberger. I think it's probably one of the best pieces of evidence they have at this time. If they, of course, can find that knife, that's going to really solidify, this case.
I honestly believe that if the police officers were to go through the purchase history of all 4 people that he killed, the K-bar would belong to one of them. You know what I mean? It's not just because it's not his knife that you're not going to get the origin of it. I'm assuming that whatever happened, he decided that he was going to kill these people, and the K-bar was just in the area belonging to whichever one of the victims. You know what I mean? All in all, guys, it's a really strange case. And like I said, I'm really interested to see what happens next. But it's not open and shut for me. Everybody's like, oh, he's a monster. He looks like a psychopath. Okay, he may have done a monstrous thing, but why though? This is what we want to figure out. Why? He did it with a K-bar. That is pretty savage. And he did it to 4 people. No history of doing anything weird to any other people. He didn't kill animals, not that I've heard of. He didn't strangle cats or anything weird. You know what I mean? He had a regular enough childhood, did a little bit of drugs, and was on his way to being a better person. Something in between there went really wrong between those 2 colleges. So we need to find out what happened. Did the criminology courses get to him? Maybe it broke something within him and he just wanted to try it. But it's just not really making much sense to me. And I've seen a lot of criminal cases just on YouTube and stuff. So we'll stay tuned with this. When it starts out, we'll be covering it for sure. And until then, people, stay safe, stay strapped, and see you in the next one.